Good morning. This is Coach Kessel welcoming you to the Denny Kessel Homeschool of Basketball. Today I want to talk to you a little bit about things that can help you as a player, most mentally. And as you very well know, I was the former head basketball coach at Mundelein High School, got inducted to the Illinois Basketball Hall of Fame in 2005. But as we all know, great players make great coaches, and that certainly is the case in my part. But I want to start talking, in my program, I'm very fortunate to have some of the former players that played for me. Some of their sons and daughters are in my program. Mike Quinn, Jim Volpe, Jim Tipperreiter, Jeff Franz, Chris Scheifele, Anthony Vernado, Brian McMahon, who helped me go 28-2 his junior year, and his senior year we went 23-5. And of course, Coach Kessel was certainly an integral part of my career as a basketball coach. But I want to tell you some of the things that I did with my team, with my players, that I thought were very, very helpful. And in the background here, perhaps you can see it, I have a list of 6 things I want to discuss today, and hopefully I can get through them in a expeditious way. Number 1, usually before every practice, the beginning of the year, we'd begin on a Monday, first Monday in November, and on a Friday I would take them into a room and I would have them write down their goals. I thought it was very, very important that as a player, you write down what you want to accomplish, short-term goals, personal goals, team goals, because I found that in a Fortune 500 book, every book talks about the only way you can really achieve success is you have to have goals that you can visualize. I would have my players write down their goals, what they wanted to accomplish, and then I had them taken to their parents' house, put on the ceiling of their bedroom so they could see it every day. Hey, it's so easy to write down or to say, perhaps, that you wanted to average 11 points a game, and then when it gets right down to it, you're averaging 3.3 when the season's over. You say, well, that's what I wanted. I really wanted to get 3.3. I was looking to do that. No, your goals were to get 11. And when you can visualize these goals, I think it motivates you a lot more. I think you focus a lot more, and it gives you a little bit of sense of direction. So I think it's very important right now, you as a player. Generally, it's more important for your high school kids, but write down what your goals are, what you want to accomplish, so you can visualize them. Put them on your mirror in your bedroom. That's what I had my players do. So every time they looked at their pretty self in the mirror and whatever they were doing, girls, guys, combing their hair, getting ready for that day for school, they look at those goals that they wanted to accomplish. And I think that's very, very important. The second thing that I did, and I didn't do this often, and some of the guys that I mentioned them for a reason, because they maybe have heard some of this, remember some of this. But another thing that I think is very important to be a successful basketball player is you got to have a positive mental imagery. When I was shooting free throws, I would always take the basketball, the little needle mark where you put air in the ball. I would look at that, concentrate on that, and then I would visualize seeing that ball go in the basket. And then when I shot it, it went in the basket 73% of the time. Anyhow, I think it's very, very positive you have a positive mental imagery. I used to in college, and I don't want to make this video all about me, but when I was in college, I would come back to my room before the game, lay down, shut the lights off, shut my eyes. I played Downtown by Petula Clark and Midnight Confessions by the Grassroots. But I laid there, played the music low, very low, and I would play the game through in my mind. I would see myself being very, very successful, making every shot. When I coached, I would sometimes shut the lights off and I would say, hey, shut your eyes, guys. Stack, you're making every shot. Shot, you're coming off the stack, you're coming off the dribble. Brian, shot goes up, boom, you're checking your guy out. You got butt to the gut. You got him stopped. You're attacking a basket. They're taking away your dribble. Boom, there's a quick change of direction dribble. Into the basket you go. I think it's very, very important that you as a player have a very positive mental imagery of always seeing yourself successful. I don't want to make this video too long, but I remember a great player. Your parents will remember him. Pete Maravich. His dad was his college coach at LSU. I remember reading in his book that Pete Maravich learned to become a great shooter because his dad started him at an early age of taking a tennis ball and dropping it in a can. Tennis ball into the can. Tennis ball into the can. The idea was to always see himself successful. So people, this is my second message, is you as a player, don't dwell on the negative. Be very positive and seeing yourself being successful all the time. Then, never get discouraged. When I was the head basketball coach at Mundelein High School, 9 of the 11 years, I had a player that started for me on the varsity that when he was a freshman B player. How did that happen? Because he didn't give up. He persevered. He became a gym rat. That's the basic thing I want to say. He became a gym rat. He stayed with it. He never gave up. I can tell the story of my 3 daughters. None of them made the top team in volleyball. They played sky-high volleyball. Not a one of them made the first team, but they all got Division I volleyball scholarships. I remember my middle daughter coming home, laying on the couch, crying. And I remember, I was crying right with her. And I said, Candace, you got 2 choices. You can sit here, lay here, and feel sorry for yourself, or you can prove these coaches wrong. You can work, you can practice, you can keep getting better, and someday you're going to have the upper hand. And sure enough, she ended up getting a scholarship to Western Illinois University. I like to tell this story. This past spring, I was watching a game, and I do like to name drop, by the way, so I hope I don't offend anybody. It was Mr. Ryan Jacobson, Ryan's dad. He came over to me and he said, Coach, I want to tell you, you really made a big influence on my son, Ryan. By the way, Ryan averaged 17.5 points a game 2 years in a row at Vernon Hills High School, all conference last year. But he said, when you told them about how your daughters never made the first team, they never gave up. Ryan didn't make my first team. When he was in 8th, 9th grade with my top team, Ryan never made it. But Ryan never gave up and became one of the stars when it really counted his junior and senior year in high school. And by the way, I truly believe that's what Kessel Heat AAU basketball is all about. I often tell my kids at camps, you know what? It's not important what team you're on in 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th grade. What's important is when you get to high school, and hopefully you can help your high school team. Some of you get even luckier. Some of you have the opportunity to play college ball, get a free education, do what you like beyond high school. But that percentage is very low, but we work very hard, and I know you're going to work very hard, that hopefully you can be that player. You know, I mentioned Mike Quinn earlier, my first person. Mike Quinn played for me. He's 5'6". And I always like to put slogans up on the bulletin board. And one of my favorite slogans is, it's not the size of the dog in the fight. It's the size of the fight in the dog. Mike was 5'6". We were playing Libertyville. They had a kid named Jim Ford, 6'5". Jim Ford averaged 22 points a game, was going to go to Valparaiso University on a basketball scholarship. We played a triangle and one, and little Mike Quinn, 5'6". He had a big heart, shut him down to 4 points. And yes, Mundelein did beat the Wildcats that day. Then I want to talk about practice. People, practice is so important. When I was coaching, I never did a lot of drills. I still don't do a lot of drills. I make the drills simple, but I do repetition. I think it's so important that maybe you don't, as a coach or even as a player, get caught up in doing a million drills. That doesn't make you better. You've got to do 1, 2, 4, 5 drills, learn it, do it right, repetition over and over. Very quickly, a couple comments about how important practice is. I remember a sophomore coach that I had back when I was coaching in Oregon, Illinois. Halftime, he was ripping his team. You're not checking out. You're not checking out. Can't you get a guy on your body or take a charge? Can't you take a charge? And when the kids left the locker room, I went up to Larry. I said, Larry, I watch all your practices. I have never seen you take a take the charge drill. How can your kids learn something that they don't practice? And so, people, it's very important that you practice and practice the right way. But then again, I remember my first year I came to Mundelein, I went to a clinic at the University of Illinois, and the speaker was a great coach. Your parents will know about him, your dads especially. A coach named Lou Henson, University of Illinois. And Lou made a comment that at the time, me and my assistants who went to the clinic, we kind of laughed and scoffed. And he said, it doesn't make any difference what you do as long as you practice it. Think about it. Sometimes we as coaches like to teach the proper fundamentals, the proper footwork, and obviously that is very, very important. But what is important, you got to practice it. You got to practice it. And I'm going to ask you, when I get done, what are you doing today to make you a better basketball player? I hope it isn't being on that cell phone. I hope it isn't being watching your favorite video game. There is something you can do to make yourself a better player. When it gets warmer, hopefully you can get outside. I like to tell people at my camp, the great Larry Bird. In fact, he might be my favorite player, number 33, Boston Celtics, even ahead of the great number 23, Michael Jordan. Larry Bird, in his book, he said, you never get the perfect shot until you take your millionth shot. How do you get to that million? You got to practice. You come to camps. It always amazes me. People will send their kid to a camp and think by the time that Monday goes through to Friday, they're going to be better players. Well, hopefully we've given them the right footwork, the right foundation to become a better player. But let's be honest. You're not going to become a better player in 1 week. It takes practice. It takes repetition. And again, what are you doing today to make yourself a better basketball player? And I also want to talk about mental toughness. You can't play the game on your sleeve. I will say, and I don't mean to be hyping somebody, but Kyle Kessel, who played varsity ball for me for 4 years, 5'3" as a freshman, mind you. What I always admired about Kyle, when he played the game, you couldn't tell if they were 20 points ahead, 20 points behind. He had the same eye of the tiger. He had the same focus. He had the same tenacity, and the determination was there. It's very important. You're all going to miss shots. You're all going to miss free throws. I was the worst layup shooter in the history of the game, but you didn't keep me from keep shooting, I'll tell you that. But nonetheless, I think you have to develop a real mental toughness and play the game with the same determination from the beginning to the end. The final thing I'm going to leave you with today, as you can see on the board, I've written no ball hogs. Now I'm going to tell you, all of you right now, you're thinking, oh, I know what that means. I bet you don't. What I mean by that, I used to always tell kids at camps, it irritated me when people would say, hey, Coach, Johnny shoots the ball all the time, or Sarah shoots the ball all the time. People, it's like Michael Jordan, the great late Kobe Bryant, Steph Curry, LeBron James, Kevin Durant, all these top scorers, people. You think at some time or another their teammates didn't call them ball hogs. What I call them is players that have the mentality, that have the ability to create shots, create space, that use the things when they come to camps, and we as coaches teach you, change the direction dribbles. Remember, when you change direction, you change speed. You know what direction you want to go. The defense doesn't know. And by able to keep your dribble alive and attack and create and use that quick change the direction dribble, you can create a shot, step back, or whatever it may be. And we're going to get into more shooting next week, and hopefully some things that might help you grow and develop better as an offensive basketball player. But my point with no ball hogs, when I had the opportunity to coach, fill in for a coach that may have had more commitments that day, and I get to coach his 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th grade team, the first thing I do, I write their name on the scoreboard or my corny board, and I put their number, their name, and I tell them, when this game is over, I want to see how many shots you've taken. I'm not concerned with how many shots you have made. I want to know how many shots you have taken. It's amazing how many people are content with going on the basketball floor, especially at the younger age, and they're content with playing their 12, 13 minutes and never shooting the ball. Yeah, there are roles, and I know that every team has a role. Every great team needs role players. But people, I think that scoring is a mentality. I think it's something you have to learn. I want my players to learn to shoot the basketball. I'm an offensive coach. I know that I used to always tell my players, those coaches out there that says defense wins championship, they may very well be right, and they are right. Defense does win championships. But people, I believe that offense wins games. I believe that college coaches would come to watch a game not to see who held the 20-point score to 2 points, but to see how many times they could fill up the scorebook with 20 points themselves. I think offense is important. I want all my players, all of you in Kessel AAU basketball, I'm not asking you to really be literally ball hogs, but I'm asking you to shoot the basketball. as I used to have in my camp, you can never score unless you shoot the ball. So people, shoot the basketball. Yes, I don't want you to be a ball player. We need team play. We need to distribute the ball. We need to spread the floor. We need to make some 4 or 5 passes. But it doesn't always have to be Michael Jordan that is shooting the basketball. So finally, we are going to have some future videos. Hopefully, I want to go over some conditioning drills you can do at home when the weather warms up a little bit. We want to do some, actually, I'm going to spend a whole week talking about shooting, mechanics. We will get into that later. And then Friday, though, for all of you people that are college-bound players that have aspirations to play college ball, don't give up that hope. Don't give up that desire. But I want to talk to you a little bit on Friday, as I was very fortunate to have 4 kids that all played Division I sports. I want to talk to you about some of the recruiting things that you should be aware of and that you might consider when you get ready to pick that school. Thank you. I hope you have a great day. But again, let's do something to make yourself a better basketball player today.